Thank you very much, our program director, Kenan Mkopozi. Hey, your microphones are crowding my podium. Members of the Army Command Council, our special guests from the media, ladies and gentlemen. The South African Army is delighted to be your host this morning. Allow me to extend a warm word of welcome to each and every one of you. I trust that you'll enjoy the morning with us as we continue our interaction around the breakfast table, building on the dialogue we had when we gathered here at the South African Army College in May last year. The South African Army headquarters considers the Fourth Estate as a priority stakeholder and thus strives to maintain good and cordial relations with you, the country's pen warriors. Without your active involvement and scrutiny of our affairs, all our well-meaning operations would remain hidden to the public that we intend to serve. The nature of our relationship with you is a symbiotic one, where we mutually benefit from one another's operations. As the South African Army, you are a constitutionally sanctioned entity as contained in Chapter 11 of the Constitution. The very same Constitution preaches the right for all South Africans to freely express themselves and gain free access to information. The SA Army respects the work that the media does as much as its work is entitled to be accorded the courtesy and respect it deserves. Our founding father, former President Nelson Mandela, had a very clear understanding of the role the media plays in society when he stated, I quote, "Freedom of the media and press is among the oldest and most valued freedoms for which people the world over have fought," close quote. Our beloved Madiba went on to say, I quote again, "A critical, independent, and investigative press is the lifeblood of any democracy," close quote. It has to be bold and inquiring without fear or favor. That is a challenge we need to all take to heart and never fail to take up for the sake of our, we never fail to take this up for the sake of our democracy. In an endeavor to inform the South African public, also be independent and never take sides. The only side you should take is that of the truth. Allow me to fill you in on South African Army developments since our last encounter. I will run through a few aspects considering the limited time we have here, and there will be an opportunity for interaction at the end of my address. As you all know, we have wound up our mission in the Central African Republic after our involvement there in 2013. For you, men and women whose work it is to be the eyes and ears of the public, would know that since our withdrawal from the Central African Republic, the security situation has deteriorated into one where warlords reign supreme and compete against one another at the expense of vulnerable citizens of that country. The current turn of events in that republic is unfortunate and regrettable in view of the drive for the South African Army to contribute to the upkeep of peace and security on the continent. Yet our forces there, and history would attest that their being there made a great difference at a time, as a stabilizer and a force that contributed to keeping belligerents in that conflict-ridden country at bay. As the South African Army, we are assured of the sterling work that we are doing to ensure that the public is well informed on events shaping history that we are involved in. The constant scrutiny of our activities and operation is not one that irks us, but one that we welcome and will forever be accountable to the people of South Africa. And your reportage keeps us on our toes and ensures that we do not forget to remain accountable. With you, the media, on a vantage point observing our every move, we are emboldened to never fail in our mandate to uphold the Constitution of our country. In February this year, we had bravery medals bestowed by our Commander-in-Chief, President Jacob Zuma, on some of our soldiers who fought gallantly during the Battle of Bangui in Central African Republic. We've also scheduled another medal parade to confer more medals and awards to some of our members who were not part of the first group honored on the Armed Forces Day. The South African Army suffered losses of lives and were fast-tracked the payments of death benefits to the bereaved families and continue to do so to ensure that a few unfinalized claims are put to bed so that the families are able to access the funds they're entitled to. The Minister of Defense and Military Veterans, Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula, has to that effect also put her weight behind the speedy finalization of death claims relating to the Central African Republic and all other incidents affecting uniformed members during a budget vote on the 23rd of July this year. Some media houses have speculated on plans underway for the South African Army to deploy boots on the ground in the Central African Republic. A decision that, to my understanding, was never taken and that I, as Chief of the South African Army, am not aware of. You would recall that during the African Union's 21st Ordinary Session of Assembly of Heads of States and Government in Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, in May, our government tabled the military intervention tool known as the African Capacity for Immediate Response to Crisis. In short, we call this ASIRIC. To make a rapid deployment force available to intervene timelessly in conflicts in order to minimize civilian suffering. ASIRIC is a transitional measure to provide immediate combat intervention to help save lives in the African hotspot until such time that a fully fledged Africa Standby Force is ready to continue with that function. So far, the plans are that the Africa Standby Force should actually be operationalized by the end of 2015. As the South African Army, we naturally support and respond to the call to intervene in conflict areas, regardless where it may be on our vast continent, with the Central Republic not an exception. Should we be needed by the African Union to provide assistance in conflict resolution in Africa, we shall oblige. The South African Army's posture on the continent has been that of peacemaker And for that reason, we have been roped in as part of the United Nations mission under the Force Intervention Brigade to help stabilize the Democratic Republic of Congo and build bridges for peace and integration among the population of that country. Our very own 6th South African Infantry Battalion was part of the inaugural United Nations Peace Enforcement Mission in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And they played a pivotal role in neutralizing the M23 rebel group and taking steps towards the attainment of lasting peace in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Our soldiers in the mission were involved in a multinational operation and handled themselves well to the satisfaction of the United Nations and their counterparts from other countries in the front lines. Their heroics in battles and skirmishes that cut off the M23 and the 6th South African Infantry Battalion the honor of being awarded the freedom of city of Grahamstown on the 28th of August this year. As a country, we'll be hosting the welcoming parade for our sons and daughters from the DRC. And as the Chief of the Army, I extend my invitation to you to be part of the event, which has already generated a buzz and informed South African public about this milestone. As we celebrate the Women's Month, let us be reminded that we also owe our successes to the contribution made by women in uniform. Our mission as the South African Army is, among other things, to prepare combat-ready forces with the latest tactics, techniques, and procedures, to provide the Chief of the National Defense Force with an integrated force for employment in conventional operations, border safeguarding operations, disaster relief, peace support operation, training support to other African countries, support to other government departments, and to contribute to the upliftment of South Africans. In the execution of our mission, the South African Army is increasingly becoming involved in operations other than war. As a force, we understand the bond that we share with our population and readily extend our support to the people of South Africa when the need arises. We are, after all, servants of our people. Over and above our role in safeguarding the 7 May general elections, our soldiers kept stability in a non-partisan manner in Alexander Township when chaotic elements threatened to derail the constitutionally protected smooth polling process. The South African Army built bridges for the cut-off communities in the Eastern Cape and Hammanskraal in Gauteng North. These bridges are to be handed over to the relevant authorities in due course. All this we do in the spirit that the South African populace shall never be in need while we sit with the capability to alleviate their plight. Where the situation requires us to step up and assist, we shall deliver. As part of Operation Corona, that is our border safeguarding duty, the South African Army continues to deploy soldiers along our borders with the neighboring countries to eradicate illicit activities, keep our people safe while also protecting the South African economy by curbing the flow of contraband goods into the country.